right, I'm Dale Brown, founder and director of operations for the Detroit Threat Management Center. I started off in 1994 just helping families basically with self-defense. I thought that Detroit would be a great place to help people learn how to defend themselves by understanding law and tactics. So I thought, we live in America, a place where there's not a lot of swords, not a lot of knife fights, but we do need to understand knives and guns. We need to understand how to fight standing up. We know how the civil and criminal law will affect our actions and inactions as civilians who want to have a good quality of life for our families, for our communities, for our corporations. So I started teaching in the parks in Detroit. And then I found out something that I was not aware of, that the families in Detroit and other cities, they're missing something. They're missing proactive prevention, protection. Where I grew up, Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is home of the University of Michigan, the police were very responsive, very positive, and they were completely different than they were in the urban environment in Detroit. Their objective was completely different, and rather than blame police, I thought it would be good just to help people that needed help. During this transformative phase psychologically from being a person who's just there to help, teach to a person that actually physically provided safety, I had an event that directly affected me. The first event that made me feel like Detroit was a great place that needed to learn how to defend itself and have people defend their families was an event that took place on a bridge where a woman was pulled from her vehicle and 3 men attacked her, and while she was being attacked in broad daylight, a group of people were cheering. And she jumped off of a bridge in order to preserve her life, she thought. Unfortunately, she died right in front of her daughter, in front of a crowd of people. And so I thought, what if I had a student there? What if somebody would have trained in my system? What if somebody could have been there with the proper training? They could have stopped this situation. They could have protected this mother of this daughter. They could have stopped this horrible event from taking place and saved Detroit one more horrific story that was avoidable. So that was the impetus for why I wanted to teach, why I wanted to teach in Detroit. I started teaching in the YMCA, started teaching in the parks. I had private students. And what I found out was that that's not enough. And the way I found it out was it was a hard way. I had a young lady who was screaming for help. I called the police repeatedly. And the 911 operators knew my voice. I called 911 so much that when I would call, they would say, "Dale, is that you?" They knew it was me. Like I was recognizable. They were like, I just know this guy's voice. He calls so much. And I'm always calling for every situation. In this case, a young lady was being attacked for 45 minutes, and I did nothing. The reason I did nothing is because the day before this event, a sergeant, a respected sergeant, from the inner city, he told me that I'm not allowed to interfere in situations involving violence in the families that need help. And that if I do interfere, he's going to come to my house and he's going to take my guns. And I thought, I don't want any trouble with police, so I'm just not going to interfere. This is on the city streets. It's not on private property. I legally have no right to do anything to someone, to help someone. I don't have a legal right. And this officer said he's going to harass me, so I stayed out of it. For 45 minutes, she was attacked by a group of women. This is a 14-year-old girl. She's being attacked because a 30-year-old man wants to date her. So instead of going after the man, they go after the girl. The girl screams for help. Make a long story short, she defends herself successfully against the liquor bottle that they swung towards her head. They took Raid and sprayed it in her eyes and mouth, and that gave her a chemical burn, and she was screaming on the ground, flailing. The ambulance came approximately 30 minutes later. This is in broad daylight at a store now, right in front of a store. The police came after that. The police asked me, they said, "Where's the young girl if she's been attacked?" And I said, "Well, the ambulance took her." They said, "Well, there's nothing we can do because she's not here." I said, "Well, don't your police radios tell you where the ambulance is?" They said, "No, our police radios don't work that way." And I was like, wow, that's amazing. You can't even, it's crazy. I didn't know you couldn't find people that are hurt. If you rob a bank, you just go to the hospital and the police can't find you. So I was shocked. But I was like, okay, this is new. You got it. So you learn something every day. So the mother comes home. I go to the mother and I say, "Listen, your daughter's in the hospital. The mother works 3 jobs. And I said, you know, she was attacked today, but I'm a witness. I can tell you who did it. And I know the women that did this are on the rent roll. I have their names, their social security numbers. This is easy. We'll go to the police station and we will get justice. She looked at me and she said, where are you from? She said, you're not from here, are you? And I go, doesn't matter where I'm from. It's people like you in the inner city that won't work with the police that are the problem. She goes, you don't know, do you? And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, the police aren't going to do anything. What are you doing? I said, that's not true. All you have to do is contact the police, follow the rule of law, be a good woman, a good American parent, and do the right thing. And she was like, I'm not going anywhere near a police station. I said, that's because you're a bad parent. You are a bad parent. You're setting a bad example for your daughter. You're the problem. People like you are the problem in the inner city. You're the problem. And she said, well, I don't have any money. I said, well, I got $20, which, by the way, was all I had into my name. I said, I'll give you $20. She was like, fine, I don't have a ride. I go, well, I can borrow a car because the criminal stole my car. That really happened. So I had no car. So I took her to the police station, and she agreed. You know, her daughter came out of the hospital. Her daughter looked like a mummy. Her face was wrapped up. She said, okay, I'll go up here. We go in the door, and I was so happy. I was like, wow, we're about to show that if you follow the rule of law, you follow through, the law enforcement will help you. We'll show that justice can be had right here in the inner city. We can work together with law enforcement, and this will be great. So we walk in there, and there's an African-American female sergeant, and I thought this is really going to be great because she's going to identify with the victim. They're around the same age, and this is going to be great. So we walk up to the stage, and I said, hi, I'm security for the building, and this is a mother and her daughter. The daughter was attacked. She goes, I said, excuse me? She goes, who is you? I said, I'm the security. She goes, well, is you related to the victim? I was like, no. She goes, get away from my desk. I was like, wow, okay. So the mother looked at me, and she looked at me like this look of sarcasm. Like, see what happened? See what happened? And then the little girl looked at me, and she goes, what happened? So the mother looks at the police officer, and she says, okay, I was at work. While I was at work, she was attacked, and said, what? Speak up, I can't hear you. So the little girl starts crying a little bit. Now, mind, she has only one eye open because she's wrapped up like a mummy. Her mouth is is wrapped, and she can barely breathe. And she's looking at me, and she's looking at the sergeant. She goes, what you looking at? What's wrong with you? And so the little girl starts crying. And now the sergeant and the mother looks at me, and the mother said, I told you. And she goes, go sit down. She yelled at them. And that's when I realized that I've done a horrible disservice. What I did was I took a lady and her daughter on their most tragic day, and I caused them a further humiliation. And that was the day when that little girl was crying. She started bawling. That was the day that I realized that I will never allow anyone to interfere in the protection of life. And that was the last day that I waited and allowed anyone to be harmed. And what's amazing, that sergeant became very positive and supported my organization. When he saw that I wouldn't back down, and he saw that I protected all the people and my staff, at first I just had a dog and a rifle, and that quickly grew just to more and more volunteers and people helping. The outcome of helping and creating a violence-free environment was apartment buildings that went into the black for the first time in 20 years. That means the rich people that own the buildings got richer. What I did was charge them money for that. What they did was agreed to pay it. And that's how I started my organization. We're an NGO. We specialize in not killing people. It's called the anti-kill philosophy. And what I've been able to show is that even now, 20 years later, we can create safe communities that are prosperous by creating a nonviolent environment through nonviolent, non-aggressive interactions. We create nonviolent outcomes, and as a result, prosperity is a natural byproduct, which means that it's self-sustainable. I don't need grants, I don't need handouts, there's no funding. We now have boats and Hummers and all kinds of vehicles, and all that came as a byproduct of successfully managing violent conditions and creating nonviolent outcomes. And the cornerstone to our success is not the guns, and I'm a firearms instructor, I own lots of guns, I love guns, I'm a firearms enthusiast. That's not the key to our safety, that's not the key to our success. The key to our success was one principle, the love of humanity. You will always protect that which you love, and you will never protect what you do not love. Duty can never compare to love of humanity. So this is what I've learned, and this is what I'm here to share, the tactics, the strategies, the skills required to understand the biomechanics, to understand the biopsychology related to how we use psychology, law, and skill to deter, detect, and defend families, communities, and corporations from violence by denying the opportunity for violence to occur in the first place, not by killing and capturing people after they've raped, robbed, and killed people. And to also introduce you to a new concept. Private policing is not needed. Policing is the enforcement of laws. That means laws have to be broken. You don't want laws broken. You don't want rape, robbery, and killing. What you want is a life without that. And that's called management of threat. Threat management, preventive threat management, which is the science that I've created, allows you to create that consistently. An environment where you don't have the violence, where you don't have the laws being broken, because you don't create the adversarial conditions and the ability for violent predators to perceive your area as an area in which they can attack, or a family, or a community, or a corporation. So it's really the bridge, how to create a safer society safely. Thank you.